An absolutely crazy night of hockey in Columbus as the Canucks fall 7-6 in a shootout. They were up, they were down, then they were tied. They get a single point, but they should have had two tonight. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on a Friday night that saw the Vancouver Canucks jump into leads of 3-0 and 5-3. And in the end, they come out on the short end of a 7-6 shootout loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Just a wild night of hockey at Nationwide Arena. It is Rink Wide. It's brought to you in part by Bet365. I'm Jeff. He's Irf. And we got a lot to talk about. Hopefully you're listening or watching the live stream and you're out for a long walk, because I kind of feel like that's what's necessary after this one. I don't know how you make sense of everything that we saw. I don't know if you can see this either, my notepad. I ran out of room on the page. Just too much going on. This was about 8 games in one. Yeah, every point matters for the Vancouver Canucks, but so do the ones that get away. And you know the story by now, 13 of them that have been left on the table beyond regulation time for the Vancouver Canucks, who won in a shootout the other night in Jersey, but come out on the short end. Only one goal scored in the skills competition. It was Port Moody's own Kent Johnson. He beat Kevin Lankinen, and that was it for scoring in the shootout. Canucks couldn't find a way to get another one past Elvis Merzlikins, so Elvis leaves the building with a 7-6 victory. His Blue Jackets are above the playoff bar in the East, and the Vancouver Canucks, well, they creep a little bit closer to St. Louis, but they also burn a game remaining. Just 9 to go now, Irf, and that hill just keeps getting steeper for the Vancouver Canucks.
I'll say it. This is among one of the worst losses of the season for this hockey team by just the sheer first 20 minutes of this hockey game. You blow a 3-0 lead in 9 minutes of playing time in Columbus. You're on the road. You should be able to take care of business. We're going to get into absolutely everything, but that's kind of where my initial starting point is at. 12 goals. Everyone got their money's worth. It was awesome. It was kids' night in Columbus. Like a kid on the PA announcer. Yeah, absolutely. It was great. But in the end, like, the Canucks can't sign up for games like this. They need a save from their goaltender. They didn't get one. And up 3-0. Again, that's one of the things that I go back to. You have to find a way to either add to the lead or not let this team back in it.
Well, and sure, 3-0 on the road. Mm-hmm. It's got to be, at this time of the year, it's got to be money in the bank. But, okay, it got away. Then you reestablish the lead. You get a short-handed goal that looked like it was going to be an absolute crusher for the Blue Jackets. And the Canucks add to that 6 minutes into the third. Now they're up 5-3 with 14 minutes to play. And so, as much as a 3-0 lead getting away looks bad, I would say 5-3 with 14 minutes to play. And 21 seconds after Aatu Raty gets his first of 2, you talk about needing a save. I didn't like the goals at either end of the ice.
No, neither did I.
Didn't look great on the Raty goal, and then Tocchet with a one-timer, but short side on Kevin Lankinen, who's back in the net. And, yeah, he's going to be a talking point as we go through this night. Defensive breakdowns. The goalie interference, the Canucks get a break and do nothing with it. And the Blue Jackets score, 21 seconds after Raty had scored, and then the Blue Jackets scored twice in 22 seconds later in the period. But that wasn't enough, because Aatu Raty had one left in him. His second of the period, his 5th of the season, has scored in back-to-back games now for the Vancouver Canucks. And with 2.5 to go, you kind of thought that there'd be another goal remaining, one way or the other. I didn't know that this game was going to get to overtime. Yeah. Ultimately, it did. Canucks had their chances in OT. They took them, but weren't able to score. And then, as we said, just one goal in the shootout, but that's all it took. And the Blue Jackets beat the Vancouver Canucks 7-6. These games matter to both teams. And so, yeah, you know that they're celebrating in that Columbus locker room and at Nationwide Arena, but this one stings for the Vancouver Canucks, who just have no margin for error at this late stage of the season. And so it goes in the books as a 7-6 setback. The Canucks up to 81 points. They are 4 back of the St. Louis Blues, who are idle. But as we said, they're burning games, and so they do have one game in hand, but it's a 4-point gap that they have to close. And now the Canucks don't play until Sunday. The Blues are in Colorado on Saturday, while Calgary's at Edmonton in the Battle of Alberta. So there is some scoreboard watching to do. and the road trip, this lengthy road trip, 6 games. They're 5 deep now, and it comes to an end at noon Pacific time on Sunday. We're going to talk about it again. We've barely scratched the surface here. So much to get into. And, of course, we want to hear from you. The chat is hopping as it always is. It's a Friday night. It was a game that had 1,000 storylines. So we want to hear your thoughts. And if you want to get to the top of the queue and have your comments or questions read here on Rink Wide, hit us up with a super chat. Our charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Let's start at the start.
Yes.
Because the Canucks came off a solid performance the other night on Long Island. Back-to-back wins, had a chance to make it 3 in a row where nobody's given an inch. At least the St. Louis Blues certainly aren't. I know the Flames lost to Dallas. So that was a little bit of a window of opportunity for the Vancouver Canucks. And look, this power play was one of the storylines coming in, that they were finding ways to generate offense, and they had won the last couple of games. But the power play on the road trip, Irf, was a net -1 after giving up the shorthanded goal the other night. So Sean Monahan takes a delay of game penalty up over the glass early on. And, of course, it's Linus Karlsson. Why wouldn't it be Linus? The first unit looked terrible. Second unit starts snapping it around, and a nice pass from Garland down to Sherwood to Karlsson in front of the net. And Linus Karlsson getting an opportunity here, making the most of it, his second National Hockey League goal, and that's the start the Canucks were looking for. But more than that, it set the table for them to add to it quickly with 2 goals in short order. Brock Boeser is 24th. You give Brock time and space. He's on a heater right now. Has been terrific on this road trip. And for a short while, he took the team lead with 24 goals on the season. 3 minutes after Brock scored, Jake DeBrusk had gone 7 without scoring. They need Jake DeBrusk. If they are going to make a push here and close the gap, you need your leading goal scorers going. And so DeBrusk caught Boeser for team lead with 24 on the season, in front of the net, where Jake has done much of his work this season, and was able to bank it in off Boone Jenner, who had a busy night for the Columbus Blue Jackets. A bunch of pucks went in off Boone Jenner, mostly at the right end of the ice, but that one from Jake DeBrusk tipped off the Blue Jacket captain. And so, 13 minutes in, 2 power play goals for the first time since that 5-2 win in St. Louis, way back when, not the St. Louis game to start this road trip, back in January. That's the last time the Canucks scored 2 power play goals in a game. So they squander a 2 power play goal effort. They squandered goals from Brock Boeser and Jake DeBrusk, their 2 leading scorers. They squandered all kinds of things in this hockey game. And again, a single point, hard to get too fired up at this late stage of the season, but impossible to argue with the first period and the way it played out.
Well, that's absolutely it. That first period, I think you and I looked at each other right after this one was over and said, all right, this one, could be a nail in the coffin game pretty quick here for the Vancouver Canucks. 6 goals in 6 games for number 6, Brock Boeser. You mentioned the heater. When he's hot, and he's feeling it. He was shooting the puck well. He did look good. But again, you take that lead. Your message, if you're Rick Tocchet to your group after 20 minutes, is okay. This is far from over. Probably, like you can't be leaning back, take the foot off the gas pedal, especially against the Columbus Blue Jackets team. And then, came the second period, Jeff.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts after the first period? After they go up 3-0.
I thought good for them.
Yeah.
They're spreading the scoring around. The power play's cooking here now for the first time, certainly on this road trip. Everything went their way. And look, we have to point out that on this road trip, the Canucks haven't morphed into the Oilers of the mid-'80s. They're on a percentage heater right now, and goals are going in. And it's great. This is a team that went 16 straight not that long ago. How many post games did we do where we kept this chart of how many games in a row? 16, where they didn't crest 3. Well, they score 6 in a game for the 3rd time in the last couple of weeks. They did it against the Blackhawks. They did it against the Jets. Here tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets. They won those other ones. You score 6. I don't care if you're at home, on the road, on the moon. You score 6 in a game, you got to find a way. And yet you could say, hey, when you're down with 2 minutes to go, they did find a way at least to push it to overtime. But again, that's going to be one of the stories of this season, is that record beyond regulation time that is now 8-13. So 13 points have left sitting on the table. And the Blue Jackets grab the bonus point. They win it by a score of 7-6. So I liked a lot about the first period. Thought, all right, they're going to make it easy on Quinn Hughes. He's not going to have to log a ton of minutes. Maybe, ease Kevin Lankinen back into the lineup for the first time since we last saw him against the Rangers. That was a strange game, obviously, but they lost that one in regulation. A lot busier. Lankinen was a lot busier in this one. Final shots are 39-37, although the Canucks had a 4-1 edge in the shots on goal in overtime, and they certainly had a couple of chances. Quinn Hughes running out of gas, but he had the breakaway early in overtime. Nothing doing there. Kiefer Sherwood looking to go 5-hole, and Kiefer Sherwood back in his hometown of Columbus, Ohio. He was ready for this one. He had himself quite a night, and we'll get to the 3 stars in a sec, but there are 3 periods in this hockey game. So we've looked at the first one. The Canucks get outshot 12-10, but they took advantage of a couple Columbus power penalties and made the Blue Jackets pay. But, 34 seconds in, ice is still fresh. People aren't even back in their seats yet, and that's when the Jackets started chipping away at that Canucks lead. Boone Jenner with a deflection in front of the net. Matejchuk with the shot. Eric Goodbranson getting a second assist on that one. And before the period was 5 minutes old, Marchenko with a wrist shot far post and in, and all of a sudden you're thinking, no, this isn't going to happen. We're not watching this. Canucks have to find a way. And before the period was 9 minutes old, right back to square one, Dante Fabro with a wrist shot through some traffic, and it found its way in. So lots of shots from the point that, love a save here or there, certainly. Neither goaltender probably feeling great about things, but Elvis gets the win, so I'm sure he's enjoying the night a little bit more than Kevin Lankinen. And look, I think we can do this on a post-game podcast like this one, where we can second-guess the coach. He's got to make the decision in real time. And at 3-0, hey, look good. I still wonder if the better play would have been to ride the hot hand of Thatcher Demko. Try for 3 straight wins, and then take your chance at the end of the road trip against the Winnipeg Jets. Lankinen beat the Jets not that long ago. Is this a different game if Thatcher Demko is in there? Is Thatcher Demko allowing 6 goals given the way that he had performed against the Devils and the New York Islanders? I think that's a fair question to ask. Again, we don't know if Demko was fatigued after first 2 starts in a while.
He's on the bench.
He did. He dressed as the backup. Yeah. We know that Rick Tocchet doesn't get the hook out generally. That's not part of his MO here. Although he did take a timeout, and a good one in overtime, to rest Quinn Hughes and other players. But again, when you lose and your team gives up 6, I think you open yourself to that question at the very least. Would Thatcher Demko have delivered a victory in this hockey game to give the Canucks 3 straight as they head for Winnipeg to wrap things up? We'll never know, but I think it's a fair question to ask.
Yeah, I don't think there really was any question. I think it should have been Thatcher Demko, unless he said, I can't go, but I'm good enough to back up. But then if you're good enough to back up, if they got lit up 4-0 in the first period, he still could. Lankinen still could have been pulled in the second period as well, right? There was very good chance that could have happened. So I agree with you totally, Jeff. A lot of people also in the chat and different social circles are saying that they thought that Demko probably should have been the answer, but plays so well in the last 2 games, gives your team a fighting chance. I understand Lankinen's been the guy, but maybe just feel it out. Maybe ride that hot hand. Try and get that 3rd win and do the afternoon thing with Kevin Lankinen if you really have to. But, I think it's almost an automatic now that you're going to see Thatcher Demko on Sunday against the Winnipeg Jets.
So Columbus ties this game at 3, and we're not even at the midway mark of the second period. And then the Canucks run into some problems. DPD with the double minor, the high stick on Boone Jenner, draws some blood. Blue Jackets could smell blood, right? They've scored 3 straight. They're going to work on the power play. Yeah, their power play has struggled, and this should have been the turning point of the hockey game. We should have been raving. The entire post-game pod should have been a celebration of Tyler Myers jumping into the rush, shorthanded. Great play by Pius Suter at the blue line to tie up Zach Werenski. Kiefer Sherwood skates onto the puck, puts it into space, and there's Tyler Myers out racing Kirill Marchenko to the puck, chips it past Elvis Merzlikins, and against the flow, against the momentum, Canucks go back in front at 4-3. A shorthanded goal. Kind of felt like it should have been a kick in the nuts for the Blue Jackets, and instead, ultimately, it means nothing for the Vancouver Canucks because not only did they lead 4-3, but then Aatu Raty puts them up 5-3, 6 minutes into the 3rd period. So, authors of their own demise. Jason in our chat says, Canucks are cooked. Same game as the first of the season against Calgary. And there are certainly some parallels. Canucks jumped out to a 3-0 lead that night, had a 4-1 lead at one point, and we know how that one ended 6-5 in overtime. This was 7-6, and it was in a shootout, but, the parallels are certainly there. from game 1 through game 73. Canucks not learning their lessons, and this one is going to sting, and ultimately, they're not mathematically eliminated, but this one's going to stick with them for a while.
Yeah, and I just think like the way it happened, right? It's the 3-0 lead. It's the power play cooking. It's so much good juju going your way,
Totally.
right? And then it's like, what happened after that intermission? Like, what really went wrong? Because you go 1-2-3, bang, 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 blow a 3-0 lead in 9 minutes. Okay, you score the shorthanded goal, calms things down. The building's quiet at that point. In those moments, right? Great work from Sherwood, Tyler Myers, a great little chip there. And then, okay, you go into the break there, up 4-3. And then the wheels just fall off again for both teams, I guess. But like for the Canucks, it was even more of it.
And again, I thought like the first 5 or 6 minutes of the third period, thought for the team that had the lead on the road, knowing the importance of all these games, I didn't mind the way the Canucks approached the third. We have seen the Canucks sit back a number of times this year. We've seen them sit back and try to protect leads, park the bus, whatever. I didn't think they did that in the second period. In fact, Linus Karlsson had a rebound chance right after Boone Jenner had scored, so it's a 3-1 game. Karlsson has a chance there. Then it's 3-2. Tyler Myers set up by Brock Besser, and he rattled one off the shaft of the stick of the goaltender, and so a close call there. It was sort of a question of, or a story of, Canucks unable to finish in the second period after they had done well in the first, and then the Blue Jackets, the Canucks were a little loose defensively, allowing the Jackets to find sort of that crossing pass back to the point or to Marchenko, and the Canucks not taking away time and space, and this is the NHL. These guys are too good. Marchenko's up to 27 goals. He leads the Blue
He's
Jackets.
having a hell of a year.
Yeah, and he's a great player that nobody really talks about, but I think if I looked at what happened to the Vancouver Canucks in that second period, it was just a little loose on the coverage, and they couldn't afford to be. And Blue Jackets did well to tie it up, but that's where we said the Canucks go back in front. So 4-3 after 2 periods, and then Aatu Raty off the rush, snaps it home, puts the Canucks up 5-3, and you're thinking, all right, like, here you go. They've given themselves a little cushion. Alas, it lasted 21 seconds, and that's where we said Matejchuk with the one-timer short side on Lankinen didn't like that goal.
No.
Blue Jackets thought they had gone in front, or they thought they had tied it up at 5-all. When Danforth puts the puck in, I liked the coach's challenge. I thought it was Rick Tocchet going to bat for his team. And if you think about it, if the goal stands and the Blue Jackets go to the power play, at that point, Canucks penalty kill has been so good of late. Blue Jackets power play has struggled, and I think that probably factored into it. Yeah, Canucks got it right. Matthew Olivier, who was going to be heard from a little bit later on, his foot is there. It impedes Kevin Lankinen, and I mean, goalie interference calls are always a crapshoot for me. But I do think they got that one right in that moment. And so, again, when you're looking for things that go the Canucks' way, they extend their lead to 5-3. Now it's a 5-4 game, but they get this break as well. And they can't take advantage of the things that were going their way throughout this hockey game. So then Boone Jenner does tie the game on the power play. Linus Karlsson gets called for tripping with 3 minutes to go. And this penalty kill that's been so good for the Vancouver Canucks in the second half of the season against the struggling Columbus power play, that's one of the turning points right there, because the Canucks have killed off just about everything. It's just the third power play goal the Canucks have given up in their last 11 hockey games, but sometimes it's the timing. And Boone Jenner with the deflection in front of the net, Marchenko with the shot there, that at 16:46, and before you can catch your breath, there's Matthew Olivier, and this one counted. Nifty play. I mean, this guy's got some great hands.
Yeah.
He uses them in a lot of different ways. He can beat the crap out of you. Leads the NHL in fighting majors. Matthew Olivier with his 17th goal of the season. He and Brady Tkachuk are the only guys in the NHL with more than 5 goals and more than 100 penalty minutes. Wow. And 100 penalty minutes isn't what it once was. There aren't many guys that are in triple digits in penalty minutes, but that's pretty select company. It's a small group, and Matthew Olivier is a force without a doubt. And some teams haven't dressed their tough guys against the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks don't really have a whole lot in the way of deterrence, but this guy's an every night guy he's out there playing in a 5-all game with 3 minutes to go, and he's putting them in front. Yeah. So he's a valuable piece, and he's going to be for a while still to come. That put Columbus in front for the first time.
6-5, yeah.
It took them 57 minutes and 8 seconds to get a lead in this hockey game, and then wouldn't you know it, shortly after that, what was it, 23 seconds after, Aatu Raty on the doorstep, center feed from Dakota Joshua, ties the game at 6-6, and off to overtime they went. 7-6, Blue Jackets win this thing in a shootout, a crazy night of hockey at Nationwide. Let's get to the 3 stars. They are a presentation of Greta Bar YVR. The 3 stars in the building, Boone Jenner, Dante Fabro, and Matthew Olivier. Clean sweep for the home team. How about that? In a game that featured 12 goals and a bunch of multi-point performances from Vancouver players. But they never had Canucks never had a shot at in that building, especially after a win. Give the Blue Jackets their night. They're back above the playoff bar. We'll see if they can maintain their spot there. For the longest time, it's kind of looked like nobody really wants that final playoff spot in the East. But so a clean sweep in the building, a little different here on your post-game pod. We're going Kiefer Sherwood in his hometown. Steps up in a big way. The setup that we talked about. He had 3 assists. In fact, the final stat line for Kiefer Sherwood is 3 assists. So back-to-back 3-point nights for the Canucks winger. 6 shots on goal. 10 more hits. So he just keeps the hits king. The hits keep coming. We went with Kiefer Sherwood. I mean, it's got to be disappointing that that kind of production couldn't help them win like it did the other night on Long Island. Boone Jenner, terrific night for the Blue Jackets captain. 2 goals, 1 assist, one of 2 3-point guys. Dante Fabro was the other. And there's Aatu Raty, 2 goals, taking advantage of this opportunity to play significant minutes in this hockey game. Does his thing in the face-off circle on a night that the Canucks didn't have a lot of success. But Aatu Raty finishes the night 8-7. So and he was out there the tail end of regulation time. The face-off with about 4 seconds to go. The way this game was going, 4 seconds was plenty.
Yeah.
And it was Aatu Raty that was put out there for a face-off deep in his own zone. So Sherwood, Jenner, Raty are the 3 stars here on Rink Wide. Fabro definitely getting an honorable mention. P.S. Suter had 3 assists, so a nice night for him. When there's 12 goals scored, there's going to be lots of guys that are figuring in the scoring. We probably could have had 6 or 8 stars on this night. The 3 stars brought to you by Greta. We're going to be hosting another Canucks Army viewing party on April the 10th. Vancouver at Colorado, so make sure you join us and experience Greta for yourself. All the big screens, there's not a bad seat in the house, all kinds of arcade games. You can order off that terrific new street food menu. They got weekly drink specials as well. Doors open at 5 o'clock. The game's going to be at 6, and it's all presented by Fountain Tire and in support of Kids Sport Vancouver. General admission tickets, $10 gets you in. You can snag a VIP ticket for $40, and that includes a burger, a beer, and an arcade game card. You got to be 19 plus to attend. Secure your spot now and join Canucks Army for a fun night. For tickets, go to nationgear.ca.
I got no problems with our 3 stars. Really don't. The Columbus Blue Jackets, like I said, they were going to give their team and have their night their stars. A couple of super chats, Jeff, to get to. One from Matt Blom. Thank you very much for that. But also the one that I really want to get to and talk about more was from James Hansen. Tough night for I think he means Lankinen. Mm-hmm. Tough night for Lanky. Is he starting to show some cracks on those long rangers? Now, I bring this forward because I saw someone tweet at me, and I think if we can get it, Jacob, that'd be awesome. Sportlogic has the goal differential when blowing games, and Lankinen blown starts, has the worst differential right now in the National Hockey League. Vasilevsky was bad early in the season, and now it's Kevin Lankinen. He's stolen 2 games for the Vancouver Canucks and blown 7, differential 5. So he's tied right now with Andrei Vasilevsky.
Well, if you just go by the numbers, according to Natural Stat Trick, the expected goals in this hockey game, Blue Jackets 3.36.
Yeah.
Canucks 2.51. So they basically both doubled the expected goal totals. It wasn't a great night for goaltending either way. But certainly the focus on this show is going to be more on what happened between the pipes for the Vancouver Canucks. And is it a little bit of rust for Kevin Lankinen? Was this, him getting back in uniform after not even dressing the last couple of games? We were led to believe that maybe playing through a little bit of a hip issue. Whatever the case, just, those long shots. Now, early in the season, that was the bugaboo for Artur Silovs. But I look at, the Jenner goal tipped in front. That was on a shot from the point. Marchenko, we said 27 goal scorer, but he goes glove side and in, and then Fabro, wrist shot, a little bit of a layered screen there. But, you just wonder, again, we talked about whether it was the right call to start Lankinen. Was there an opportunity somewhere along the line to get the hook out and go in a different direction, or is that not something you want to do to Thatcher Demko at this stage of his return, coming in cold? There's all these things at play here, but every point matters. And when you've got a 3-0 lead and a 5-3 lead, you had to see this thing through, and the Vancouver Canucks didn't. So frustrating night, disappointing night, lots of individual efforts that you like to see, but they go for naught. And so now you have to pick up the pieces here. They did a nice job putting the disappointment of the Rangers loss behind them. But the challenge awaiting them at the end of the road trip is one of, if not the best teams in hockey in the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, and further on Lankinen, we sat here after the Islanders game and said, might be a little bit too much for Sorokin. He started 17 of 19 games for them. You could see some of the goals going in weren't at his finest. And look, this isn't all on Kevin Lankinen. I mean, the Canucks defense obviously, made some errors and there weren't pretty things. It's not just on the goalie to let in 6 goals, but there were saves that he had to make. And fatigue, could it be something? Absolutely. He's been playing a lot. He's been leaned on heavily by this group to keep his team in hockey games. We'll never know the reason why it was Lankinen over Demko. Maybe, hopefully, Rick Tocchet does explain it in his post-game comments, but still, I think I go back to it and talk about the decision at 1, and then you didn't, and you still had a 3-0 lead, so you did want to save, but the guys in front of him also. There are other players on the ice other than the goaltender that need to help see this game out when you're up 3-0.
Just looking at the underlying numbers here.
Were they kind to anybody?
No.
Yeah.
And each team scored a power play goal. The Canucks got 2 power play goals and a shorthanded goal, so not a lot of 5-on-5 scoring for the Vancouver Canucks. But the Blue Jackets did get 5 of their 6 at 5-on-5. Philip Hronek on the ice for 4 of those goals for the Blue Jackets. But in terms of shot share, Marcus Patterson absolutely buried. And this is a guy that was brought in to shore up the defense. He's a defensive stalwart. Individual Corsi of 18.7%. The shots at 5-on-5 were 17-4 in favor of the Blue Jackets, with Marcus Patterson on the ice. He and Tyler Myers paired together for the most part. Connor Garland on the ice for 3 goals against and none for. So you're looking for a little better from one of the few veterans up front with so many guys out of the lineup. But it is a team game, and so you can look for trends and look at some of the guys that perhaps struggled. But ultimately, whether it's 3-0, whether it's 5-3, just find a way. Grit it out, grind it out, lock it down, and it just didn't happen. But again, the result, it stings without a doubt. And it's going to make it that much more difficult for the Vancouver Canucks to get back on the horse and try to move this thing in the right direction with just 9 games to the go. The Canucks are 34, 26, and 13 now, so they're up to 81 points on the season, 19, 13, and 6 on the road, 19 wins and 19 losses with 3 road games remaining. And on the road trip, they've picked up points in 4 of the 5 games. They're 2-1-2.
If they go 3-1-2, I think a lot of people would be like, okay, that's something that I would have probably signed up for.
I said at the outset of the trip, I thought they needed to win 3. I don't know if they're going to win 3, but they have picked up the equivalent of 3 wins in terms of points. They've got 6 points in the first 5 games. I also said that a 500 road trip wouldn't allow them to stay above the bar. And remember, they started, when they went into the game in St. Louis, they were tied with the Blues, but they were above the playoff bar. 500 wasn't going to keep them above the playoff bar, but I thought it would keep them within striking distance. Again, I guess I thought foolishly that St. Louis would lose a game somewhere, and maybe they will in Colorado, but the way they're going, maybe they won't. And so, 4 back with 9 to go. Hockey math, if the Blues go 500, basically the Canucks can probably afford 1 more regulation loss somewhere along the line, maybe just 1 more loss, period. And they've got Winnipeg, they've got Vegas twice, they've got Dallas, they've got Colorado. So the schedule, it's a beast for the Vancouver Canucks, but they just got to worry about the Jets on Sunday. That's next up for them.
Who just picked up their 50th win.
Yeah. They finished against Jersey. They scored 2 in the first 2 minutes against the Devils 4-0 is the final there. So Connor Hellebuck coming off a shutout, and he'll probably get the start on Sunday, but we'll see about that. Utah lost in overtime, bounced back from the 8-0 trouncing in Tampa, lost 2-1 to the Florida Panthers. So Utah gets a single point, but I think Utah is cooked, and I think a lot of people think that the Vancouver Canucks are as well. But you can't stick a fork in them officially. Mathematically, the Canucks are still alive. Want to talk about some of the, again, when you score 6 goals on the road, and for a team that had struggled to put pucks in the net, there are lots of things that you have to like, and you hope that you can take out of this hockey game. And Linus Karlsson scoring as they continue to spread the scoring. Well, let's get to the stat that stands out, and then we'll talk about spread scoring. Absolutely. Because the stat that stands out, and it wasn't that long ago that this team couldn't buy goals in hockey games. And here they are now. The stat that stands out, a presentation of Resurrection Spirits. Canucks have goals from 13 different players through 5 games on this road trip. 13 different guys. And Quinn Hughes isn't one of them, which is a little bit of a surprise there. Obviously, Elias Patterson and Nils Höglander left the trip. Philip Hedl not out there. But, we saw the other night against the Islanders. You see here tonight some of the guys that maybe you don't expect a ton of goals and offense from. Tyler Myers jumping up into the rush, gets his 6th of the season. But Aatu Raty, 3 goals now in his last 2 games. So that's becoming a story to continue to monitor here. But 13 different people have scored for the Vancouver Canucks, 13 different skaters, and we'll see if they can add to that list on Sunday against the Winnipeg Jets. The stat that stands out, brought to you by Resurrection Spirits, and we hear about the push to buy Canadian these days. If you want to support a local company making a name in the spirits space, then check out Resurrection Spirits. It's an East Vancouver company crafting small batches of premium spirits using BC ingredients. You can check out their website for a look at the full product line, gin, vodka, rye, and more. And, hey, who doesn't love a deal? Resurrection Spirits has partnered with our friends at Sekeres and Price to create the S&P Gin. It's a limited run, so make sure you use the code S&P and you get $5 off a bottle. And we've got a few here in studio. You can check it out again online, resurrectionspirits.ca. Find out more about that S&P Gin and look at the entire product line there. Aatu Raty, leading Abbotsford in scoring when he got called up, has had a nice run sort of since Christmas. We've seen him at times with the big league team, but when he gets sent down to Abbotsford, it sounds like he's been working on his game. We know that faceoffs are a big part of what he does, but this is a good news story, Irv, to see the offense following him now to the National Hockey League. Yeah,
and I think for him going down there, I think a lot of people wanted to see him get called up sooner. He was one of the guys that maybe people thought should have been ahead of Sasson, for sure. Guys that thought that should have been ahead of Niels Amon. But you put him in the lineup, and now you're giving him a position where he can go out and be used offensively, right? You're missing Elias Pettersson down the middle as well, so now he's one of the more offensive guys that can go and play that position. And I think the number one thing that we need to realize with him is that he's good in the faceoff circle, right? He was 53% today, 8-7, and key moments. You mentioned Rick talking about moments and stuff in the hockey game. There was a key moment when he was out that took a draw. Should we hear from Aatu Raty? Absolutely. We did after the game the other night. Aatu Raty finding his groove offensively, up to 5 goals in the National Hockey League this season in limited time for the Vancouver Canucks. His second of 2 with 2.5 to go, got the game to overtime. So you could say that it was Raty's goal that got them a point at the very least. Yeah. But ultimately the Canucks come up short in the shootout. 7-6 is the final. Here is Aatu Raty after the loss in Columbus.
A lot on the line tonight and not falling your way, but your thoughts on the team's performance through it?
Yeah, obviously the game we're on today, we had some great moments, and so did they. And obviously I think we'd like to play a little bit better on when we have the lead and not give it away. But both teams' offense was good and defense wasn't that great. But I mean, every point matters. So I think this 1 point could be huge. But obviously we would like to today.
3 goals for yourself over the last 2 games. What's working for you? What have you thought personally?
Yeah, I think great line mates. Like teams playing good, producing a lot of offense, and I think our lines playing pretty straight lines, and everybody can read off of each other pretty good, and then some good bounces for the net and stuff like that. But it's great to go in.
Yeah, speaking of those line mates, Dakota Joshua grabbing 2 of those assists as well. What works between you two? What's clicking? Yeah,
I think like I said, we're just playing simple and very predictable, and I think that's when we can play fast and we know what the next play is going to be. It's going to be a simple play, think everybody is good on the forecheck. Everybody wants to hit, so I think we're not a line that a lot of D want to play against, because it's, every time it's going behind them and we're hitting.
Of course, you got one more to go on this road trip against Winnipeg. We know it's not going to be easy. What do you want to see from your group heading into that?
Yeah, I think, take the good things. So obviously we've be able to get a lot of chances, score a lot of goals, but then tighten up the defense. And but yeah, no, I think overall this trip, I think we played good. So I think we want to go in there confident. Obviously, it's going to be a good team against us, but we're going to be desperate. It's going to be a life or death game.
Life or death with 9 to go. Aatu Raty, the final line on him tonight. 12 minutes and 27 seconds of ice time. Scored on both of his shots. Efficient that way.
Yeah.
2 shots, 2 goals. And 8 and 7 in the face-off circle, and goals off the rush too. We've seen this again for the longest time this season. They've been missing in action for the Vancouver Canucks, but saw a couple on the island. And the first of the 2 Raty goals, Lankinen, who didn't make enough saves on the night, did make a stop, and Quinn Hughes picks up the puck, and in about 3 seconds, the Canucks take it from deep in their own zone in transition. Hughes to Joshua, and Raty with a snapshot off the rush. And so we are starting to see the Canucks scoring more of these kinds of goals. But we said it after the Rangers game as well, that it was 1-1 after 1 in that game, and then they got a little loose. I think this is proof again that the track meet isn't for the Vancouver Canucks. Even though some guys are scoring goals, all of that stuff, the buzzwords, the staples, the structure, the wall work, everything that Rick Tocchet preaches, it was missing in this hockey game.
Yeah, and it was missing for both teams. I think when things get that scatterbrainy all over the ice in so many different ways, you just have to kind of adapt to it. And for the Vancouver Canucks, it was shoot at that point, right? It's shoot. And I think even off the run, there's so many times where you sit here and you watch Connor Garland just dump it into the blue line. You watch, Elias Patterson just dump it in, and guys go and chase it, or guys don't even go and chase it. And I know Patterson wasn't playing in this game, obviously, but different players in the lineup doing that exact thing. See a guy like Aatu Raty going down the ice, take a shot. Yep. So good things happen. If anything, you're forcing the goalie to make a save where you can have a rebound. And like you mentioned, his line with Dakota Joshua, they can get in behind defenders. And whether it's getting it on the forecheck or whether it's a rebound to the net, there's things that happen when you're able to shoot the puck or at least put it on net. So I thought it was obviously a positive from him and their line there.
Yeah, there were a bunch of guys that had multiple point nights. Dakota Joshua with a couple of assists, Raty with a pair of goals. We talked about Kiefer Sherwood as the star of this game, the first star. P.S. Suter kind of quietly going about it. What a road trip for P.S. Suter. Being asked to elevate in a massive way without the top 2 centers in this hockey club out of uniform and, in fact, off the road trip. And there's P.S. Suter picking up 3 more points. So I like the play that he made to start the shorthanded goal, but in on the DeBrusque power play goal and the Brock Besser goal as well. So 3 more points for P.S. Suter. He's got 7 points in the last couple of games, last 3 games for him. And Brock Besser had a goal and an assist, and there's Quinn Hughes, 2 more points for the captain, who played, 4 minutes and 10 seconds of overtime. Last time I checked, OT's 5 minutes if it goes the duration. Captain came off the ice once.
Yeah, but he only played 28 minutes in total, Jeff. It was only 28 total minutes of ice time for the captain.
And, of course, one of the things we were going to watch was the battle between the 2 former Michigan guys. Zach Werenski, who leads the NHL in average ice time, he was at 29:49. I think he played 3:38 of overtime.
Well, that's 28 minutes. So that's 28 minutes. Is 24 of that was regulation. So
right,
that's still pretty good. Like, his minutes weren't that high throughout 60 minutes.
I think that's what the coaches thought. Hey, you got lots in your tank here, man. Get out there and try it. As we said, had the breakaway right off the hop in overtime. And then, with about 40 seconds to go, Connor Garland holding onto the puck. Quinn's out there. Get him the puck. Come on. And Garland looping around and taking it back out to center ice. Didn't love that necessarily, but hey. Game is in the books now, and Blue Jackets win it by a score of 7-6. We're going to hear from Rick Tocchet, hopefully.
We have him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear from the head coach. I'm curious we know that this is a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeve, and this one had to hurt. He may have ripped his sleeves off in defeat. Let's get to Rick Tocchet post-game in Columbus.
Obviously, we knew this one wasn't going to be an easy one with what's on the line, but just take us through your thoughts on the performance.
Yeah, a lot of turns here and there, a lot of peaks and valleys. Like I said, I think the guys gave it all. I think we need there's some battle areas. I think we got to win those battles. We had 2 guys on 1 guy, and he came out of the corner. Those are the things we got to clean up. But overall, I thought the fight, obviously getting that goal to tie it up, so the fight was there.
Do you look at it then as a kind of a point gain, or that 5-3 lead in the third kind of?
Yeah, I mean, listen, 5-3, a couple of mistakes. You know, you losing battles. We back up in the neutral zone. We take a penalty where, you know, we when pressure hits, you got to face it. I think sometimes we're sinking, but it's a learning lesson. You know, that's why we're learning. You know, we got some young guys in. I think they're trying hard, but this is a good lesson for them. And there's certain points of a game. We talked about moments where, you know, you got to squash these plays in the corner. Sometimes they come out of the corner too easy, but that's stuff that we got to keep pounding on and then keep learning from.
Tough spot for Lankinen a few times, but there was some bad bounces too that kind of won against them.
Yeah, I mean, I got to look at some of the goals. Yeah, I'm sure he had wanted a couple back, but what are you going to do? We scored 6 goals and we just couldn't get it done.
On the other side of that, a couple power play goals. What are your thoughts on the power play tonight?
It was good. I thought we talked about low plays at the net, and it worked. So, you know, hopefully you can build off that.
What have you seen from Aatu in these last couple games?
Yeah, starting to get some ice time. You know, obviously another big goal for us. So hopefully he can build off it.
All right, trying to keep his emotions in check. Coach speak there, though, when asked about the goaltending, and he says, I got to watch the goals again.
He saw them all. He saw them all.
Didn't like what he saw.
He
and he won't like what he sees when he watches them. We talked about some lost battles there, and he's not wrong. And again, in a 5-3 game in the third period, it's got to be win at all costs for the Vancouver Canucks. And unfortunately, it wasn't. So, as we said, their shootout record drops to 3-2, and beyond regulation, 8-13 now. So 21st trip. It was our stat that stands out the other night in Jersey, but the 21 games of the 73 they've played, 21 have required bonus hockey. All right, I want to go back to a super chat from Matt Blom, and we appreciate his contributions to the BC Mental Health Foundation here. I'm seeing this a lot in my feed, and I'm seeing it in the chat as well.
Me too.
And Matt says it's time to discuss the Canucks' offensive explosion since EP40's been out. Addition by subtraction. I hope management takes notice. And yes, we've talked about the fact that they're spreading this offense, and it's now or never, and guys are stepping up, and that part is great. But I would push back a little because Elias Patterson was part of the 6-goal explosions against both Winnipeg and the Chicago Blackhawks. He scored a third-period goal in Calgary that allowed the Canucks to win 4-3. He was playing better and producing better when he went out of the lineup. So this notion that because he's not here, all of a sudden the floodgates are open, completely misguided. But I do think it is a positive that guys are making the most of this opportunity and stepping up, and it's good to see a guy like Linus Karlsson who, you know, gives you what he can. I mean, he was the guy in the penalty box on the go-ahead goal, and Rick Tocchet talked about, I guess that was the tying goal at 5-5, but Rick Tocchet talked about young guys, and, you know, these are situations where they are going to learn. So to me, that's sort of two separate discussions. One, that Elias Pettersson's out of the lineup and guys are scoring, but in my mind, they're not scoring because Elias Pettersson isn't playing for the Vancouver Canucks right now.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think that the way that Elias Pettersson was playing before he got hurt in those few games, the points were coming, right? And he looked like a more confident player. Earlier in the season, I sat here days and games after Rink Wide and said that he was an anchor. He was bringing them down just because he didn't look like he was moving his feet and things like that. Now things change. He's hurt. He's in Vancouver. He is going to probably get some action on the ice and see if he can, by himself, and see if he can get whatever's hurt back to health. And maybe he plays Wednesday, or we see him at some point here down the stretch. But to go back to your stat, the 13 guys that are contributing right now, like, that's a positive for the organization. Yep. It's guys stepping up when you need them the most. And I know Elias Pettersson's not in the lineup, and we sit here and we can talk about it because he's making the most money. He's obviously a huge polarizing figure here, but the positive for the Canucks is they're having other guys contribute. Now, if Elias Pettersson's in the lineup and not contributing, and no one else is contributing, and he leaves and still nobody's scoring goals, then we can have a really big discussion about some stuff. But they scored 6 goals in a hockey game.
Now, Matt comes with a follow-up. Do we know, did he pay for the follow-up? Because I'm not sure we're going there. if he didn't make a donation to the BC Mental Health Foundation. He didn't once.
He didn't pay for this one, but it was a $10 donation.
Oh,
so
all right. So
we'll
double
give him
digits. Okay. Matt says, fair comment, Jeff, but there is something going on. Maybe as simple as super hungry players usually lower in the depth chart. You know what else is going on? Ilya Sorokin couldn't make a save the other day, and Elvis left the building and left his net a bunch in this hockey game. We talked about the Canucks just riding this percentage heater. They scored 5 goals on 25 shots the other night, got 3 in Jersey on 26 shots. They had 39 against the Rangers, but they only had 18 in St. Louis, and they scored 3 times there. This still isn't a team that generates a ton of shots, although the shot totals, as you can see on our live stream, 39-37. So this was sort of against the run of play for the Vancouver Canucks to have 37 shots. They had 39 against the Rangers. So twice on this road trip in the 5 games, they've pushed the high 30s. But, they've run into goaltenders the last couple of games that just weren't really getting the job done. I think that's a huge part of it. Cambiz says, how many Abby guys were on the ice tonight? Got to give Malhotra and Johnson a lot of credit with what they are doing. And I've talked about this on other shows. By my count, and they called Max Sasson up on an emergency basis. We thought Teddy Bluger was ill and wasn't going to play, but Teddy B was there in uniform for the Vancouver Canucks. But you've got Carlson, you've got Oman, you've got Lekkerimäki, you've got Ratu, and you had DPD.
Yes.
Right? So there's 5 regulars. And I'm just going through the lineup. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Victor Mancini didn't play, but he played a couple of games down in Abbotsford, so he has touched the American Hockey League system for the Vancouver Canucks, and Artur Silov's on the roster, but not in uniform, so there's another guy. So, look, in years gone by, how many times have we seen players called up from either Utica or Abbotsford, and they've earned the call-up on their merit at the AHL level, but when they get to the NHL level, they look out of place.
They can't hang.
And they just can't hang. This is where the credit goes to the development staff, and so Manny Malhotra and his coaches and Ryan Johnson, that these guys are now at a point where, they're playing well, they're producing in the American Hockey League, and it seems to be giving them some confidence when they get the call here. And, if Max Sasson got into this hockey game, I think his speed probably would have served him well. Hasn't looked out of place. Got 6 points in, I think, 24 games when he has been up here at this level. And so, the Canucks are at 13. I think it's 13 guys that have played for both Abbotsford and Vancouver this season. Like, that's a big number. And a lot of these guys have held their own and looked all right at the NHL level. So, in a season where so many things have gone off the rails for the Vancouver Canucks, their farm team, the way that they're playing, 7 straight wins, and they've got an early lead in San Jose tonight. That's been organizationally one of the best news stories for the Vancouver Canucks all season.
Well, and I think that's what happens when having your farm team so close to you can take advantage of it, right? And they're not only getting the coaching from Manny Malhotra and, Ryan Johnson doing a hell of a job as the general manager of that team, but you're getting to work with guys like Daniel Henrik Sedin on a daily basis, Hockey Hall of Famers. You're getting to work with guys that have had so much time and spent so much time in the NHL and produce at such a high level that you're getting that invaluable experience you're not going to really get anywhere else. Like, you look at some other teams and where their farm teams are and who is on that coaching staff and what you can do. The Canucks obviously have an advantage of that. So huge credit to them and the coaching staff and what Manny's doing down there. But the development is huge. You can get guys that can be everyday NHLers that can come into your lineup and contribute on a nightly basis on entry-level contracts or low-money deals. That's how you build Stanley Cup winning teams. You can have guys, you can find 3rd and 4th line guys, your bottom pairing defenseman guys. If you can find those types of players and then spend the big money on your topping guys, that's how Stanley Cups are built.
Right, and I think this also is part of this discussion about Tom Willander, as he may be done with his college career on Saturday. We'll see what happens with Boston University, but the reports are that the Canucks are leaning heavily on trying to get him to Abbotsford so that he doesn't burn the first year of his ELC with 9 games remaining on the NHL schedule. They want to put him in this Abbotsford development system, let him play a ton. Apparently he can play playoff hockey at the American Hockey League level. So
I wasn't sure about that,
right,
yeah.
And we talked about that the other night. So, he can turn pro. He could play 20, 25 minutes there. they're rolling. They're up 3-0 now on San Jose. So look at them go. They're like the St. Louis Blues of the American Hockey League.
Without half their team.
But, yeah, you're right. And so, it's a good environment right now. And you're seeing the work that the coaches are doing down there. And then you would have Willander in the system, getting used to the organization, and ready to hit the ground running to take a legit shot at earning a spot out of his first pro training camp in the fall. This portion of Rink Wide Vancouver brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers. That's the Pacific Toyota dealers, not your Pacific. I don't know what I said there, but the Pacific Toyota dealers.
There's too many goals in the game, Jess. There's a lot going on.
It was a goofy night, no doubt. The Pacific Toyota dealers want to tell you all about the Toyota BZ4X, 100% electric, like this hockey game was, backed by the peace of mind of knowing that it is a Toyota and that spark of joy you get when you pass a gas station and you don't have to stop. It's got everything in the way of storage space, so you can pack it up with all the kids' cargo, ski gear, golf equipment, hockey, whatever. Lots of room there. Fits family, friends, pets. Again, it's up to the challenge, and it can handle any terrain, so it can take you from the city to the slopes or wherever your life takes you. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives, and now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X from 3.29% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. When I look at this game in totality, there have been too many this season where the Canucks have let leads get away. And it wasn't just the Calgary game early. It was that Seattle game right out of the Christmas break when they had the 4-1 lead with 5 minutes to play.
Left, yeah.
They had a 2-0 lead in Utah just before Christmas and ended up losing that one in overtime. So all of these games, when they've had these leads, they've managed to get something. And that mitigates the damage to a degree. But, again, just the number of loser points that they have flushed or left on the table for the other team, that is going to be on the tombstone of this Vancouver Canucks hockey club unless they go on some sort of 7-1 run here, or I guess it would be 8-1 with 9 games remaining. But Rick Tocchet was brought in because this was what did Bruce Boudreau in. Remember at the start of that season when Bruce got fired, all those early leads in hockey games that they couldn't protect. Kind of feeling like we have reverted back to that, and they've addressed the defense. They've overhauled the defense. They think that this is sort of the defense minus Tom Willander that they're going to move forward with. Goaltending generally hasn't been an issue for the Vancouver Canucks, but we know that it was in this one. Super chat coming in from James Hansen, and we appreciate another contribution here to the BC Mental Health Foundation. We're going to have to do a subtotal. Certainly on our last program.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll let you know because we've raised some great money thanks to all of you and your contributions. James says, is Suter a contender, I think is what that's supposed to say.
Yeah.
For second-line center, he looks solid in the top spot. With all due respect to Pius Suter and everything that he has done for the Vancouver Canucks, on a team that is a true contender, I don't think Pius Suter is a top 2 center. I think this guy, his versatility, you pay for that. The penalty killing, it was another tough night for him in the faceoff circle as it was for, the Canucks won 32% of the draws, but Pius Suter went 4-18. That doesn't scream top-line center to me, but, doesn't look out of place on the power play, has the smarts to hold his own on a top unit power play, and then we saw some of the penalty killing chops as well. So you'd like to think that he could boost the faceoff totals just a little bit, but overall, a ton to like from Pius Suter in this game and on the season, and in a tough spot right now and rising above. But is he a 2C on a really good hockey club? I would say no.
He's going to get paid, I'll tell you that.
Yep.
It's probably not going to be here. The Canucks have Elias Patterson. They have a spot at 2C that I don't think that is for Pius Suter. They have Philip Hedl, that's probably your third-line center, and then you have an array of guys that you can use for your fourth line. And I think that that's probably okay if you're the Vancouver Canucks. Like, you need to go and get someone that when Elias Pettersson is out of the lineup, that's going to get you points. That's going to drive play at the center ice position. That's a guy that you can count on both the offensive side, the defensive side, that can play special teams, that can do everything. And that's a lot to ask from a guy like Pius Suter, who's had a great career. You mentioned, we talk about him all the time, low maintenance. He's as cool as ever. He doesn't really change, but he lets his play do the talking and all of that. Good for him. Go get paid. For the Vancouver Canucks, you have to think beyond it. You have to think of where this team is and where this team is going. And I just don't think that Pius Suter fits in what they're trying to do for the future and what their needs are at the center ice position.
As I look through my notes from this hockey game, and again, I ran out of space here, there are a couple of things that we haven't touched on. The Canucks opened the scoring for the 4th straight game, so they haven't been chasing games, although ultimately first goal didn't mean anything because it feels like it was about 6 lifetimes ago as this thing twisted and turned. But early in hockey games, they're not chasing. And for a team that for much of the season has struggled to score, if you give up an early one, now you're thinking, oh man, got to get that one back and then find some more offense. I think the pressure has been relieved a little bit just with the amount that they are scoring. But they've opened the scoring in 4 straight and 7 of their last 8. The only game that they didn't was in St. Louis, the one that Bolduc flung to the net and Quinn Hughes tipped in his own goal. That's the only game that the opponents have opened the scoring in the last 8. So the Canucks done a nice job there, sort of hanging around low event first periods, a lot of them, and finding ways to open the scoring. I'm seeing some noise in my timeline. We haven't discussed it yet, but why not? Been a lot of other things to talk about in this hockey game. Shootout selection for the Vancouver Canucks.
Okay.
Jake DeBrusk goes first. Scored his 24th. Scored for the first time in 8 games. Scored in the shootout the other night. No issues with Jake DeBrusk. Connor Garland goes second. We said that it wasn't a great game for Connor Garland. I don't think this was a coach's hunch of riding the hot hand from what he had seen through regulation and 5 minutes of overtime. I think this was sort of a historical decision that Connor Garland, certainly through his years in Arizona, was one of the best shootout guys in the National Hockey League and played for Rick Tocchet then, so I don't know if that's still in the back of Rick Tocchet's mind, or we heard the other night that Marco Terenius, the goaltending coach, has a say. Again, second guessing after the fact. In the moment, I didn't have a problem with Connor Garland.
Yeah, I didn't either. I think Connor Garland, it's a skills competition, and I get it. You want your other guys. Someone I think responded to both of us and said, "Why not put Quinn Hughes? The dude played 410 of overtime. He wasn't going to go up for a shootout. Sorry, Quinn Hughes." And even if I'm looking down that list of players, Quinn's probably not going before Brock. He's not going before Lecker-Mackey.
Well, the other night in Jersey, it was DeBrusk, Garland, and then Suter, who was having a good night and is having this road trip. I get he didn't score, and so maybe that bumped him from the top of the list. None of us in the studio, we've got Tyson Cole in here sitting in and watched the game with us, and Jacob as well. I think we all thought with that third slot that it was going to be Lecker-Mackey after his goal the other night, and it was. Of course. Didn't get the stick twirl and ultimately didn't get the same result, and didn't get a goalie smashing the stick after the fact either. So, again, tough spot for the kid. Hey, get out there and force this thing into extra rounds. Didn't happen for Jonathan Lecker-Mackey. Basically tried the same kind of move as he scored on Markstrom the other night. And look, Brock Boeser doesn't seem to be in the rotation. Doesn't seem to be sort of a top 5 guy. I don't know how deep you'd have to go in a shootout. And I get that Brock's on a heater right now and has a share of the team lead, but we haven't seen Brock Boeser really through his career involved in that many shootouts, at least in recent memory. So I wasn't.
Aatu Raty.
Yeah, Ratu was feeling it.
Right. Linus Karlsson.
Yeah, and I don't know. It'd be interesting to know the record of some of the guys down in Abbotsford as well in shootouts, but whatever. I mean, Connor Garland was 40% conversion rate in his career prior to this. Yeah. So, again, it's easy to question it after the fact, but this was one of those shootouts, and there are a lot of them where one goal is the only one scored, and it was Kent Johnson, and so the local kid comes. And I didn't think Kent Johnson did a lot in this hockey game. I didn't notice him a ton. He's having a nice season, mid-40s in the points for a 22-year-old player. He's going to be a terrific player in the National Hockey League, but when I look at the Blue Jackets and sort of who carried the mail for them, I didn't think it was a great night for Kent Johnson, but in the end, guys find ways to leave an impression on the hockey game. He played a lot, 19 minutes and 47 seconds, just one shot on goal, but took his shot in the shootout and ended it for CBJ. So Canucks were winners against the Blue Jackets here in Vancouver back in December. Blue Jackets protect home ice. They get a win that they needed to get back above the playoff bar in the East, and the Canucks are left picking up the pieces after the leads that got away. All right, let's take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard and what's to come.
Yes.
Busy Saturday around the National Hockey League. Of course, the Canucks, I would think this late in the road trip and with a game like this one, they're probably not going to skate in Winnipeg the next time we see them. 2 o'clock local time, noon Pacific, but I would imagine there won't be a morning skate, so next time we see the Canucks on the ice, it probably is going to be warm-up on Sunday.
Yeah.
Before then, they're going to have to do some scoreboard watching, as we said a little bit earlier, some key games around the National Hockey League. What have you got your eye on for the Bet365 line of the night?
Yeah, breaking news coming in from Bet365, Jeff, wherever nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner, face-off hat-trick, power play goal, shot on goal, penalty shot, every suspenseful minute in between. It's amazing. Whatever the moment, never ordinary. Bet365, official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. I like early games on Saturday. Like, get started early in the morning.
Yeah.
You're either happy the rest of the day or you're pissed like me. So I like the Philadelphia Flyers after firing their coach. I know they lost, and maybe Cam York plays in this game against the Buffalo Sabres.
Maybe.
So I like the Flyers at home early. I like the Tampa Bay Lightning at home against the Islanders. And the Blues. I'm going to keep going because that's the team that keeps winning. And you got to ride that heater that is the St. Louis Blues. So put those three together. The Blues game starts at 1 o'clock local time here in Vancouver. And yeah, I really like those odds with those three games. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe to our podcast and our show. You guys help make the show better and help with your comments and your super chats that make this show so much fun, Jeff.
Yeah, be like Cambiz. He says, Jeff Urf, you boys always kill it. Enjoy your weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you're getting the longer weekend
Yes.
here because you're off on Sunday.
Yep. See you
Patrick
on
Johnson
Wednesday.
coming in. I hope he's in studio. I'll have to check with him, but either way, it'll be PJ sitting in, and happy to have him back here on Rink Wide Vancouver. And the challenge for the Vancouver Canucks, and that is the Winnipeg Jets. And the Jets are going to remember what happened on the 18th of March when the Canucks jumped out to a quick lead, 3 goals on Connor Hellebuck in the first period. They were able to keep pushing that night. If there was a team that was going to come back from a significant deficit, you thought maybe it would be Winnipeg. It wasn't. It was the Columbus Blue Jackets. But the Jets shutout Jersey. 4-0 was the final in that hockey game. And, the key performers for the Jets, and there are a bunch of them. Mark Scheifele with his 36th goal of the season. That made it 4-0 late in the hockey game. Alex Iafallo had a pair to lead the Jets. Kyle Connor leads them in both goals and points, and we know that he had the natural hat trick in the first period the last time the Canucks were in the Peg in mid-January. Remember, that was the end of a 5-game road trip, and the Canucks didn't have anything left in the tank.
Yeah.
This is the end of a 6-game road trip, and with a lesser lineup, certainly, on paper. So Jets got to 50 wins, as Irf mentioned a little bit earlier on. Kyle Connor, 37 goals and up to 85 points. Nikolai Ehlers with 24 goals. He was dancing here in that game against the Canucks. Josh Morrissey in the back end. And then Connor Hellebuck now with 42 victories on the season.
Just
42, 10,
wild.
and 3. His goals against average coming into the night was 206, which will drop after the shutout. It was 199 when the Canucks shelled him for a bunch there not that long ago. But he has been incredible for the Jets. And, of course, regular season isn't really going to matter an awful lot. He's got to prove it in the playoffs, but he looks pretty determined this year. So I would imagine the Canucks see Connor Hellebuck. I would think you're going to get a Thatcher Demko-Connor Hellebuck matchup. That's pretty enticing in terms of goaltending. We thought those guys would be 1-2 at the Four Nations if Demko had been healthy, but
It's your Olympic preview.
might be your Olympic preview for Team USA. We shall see. Whatever the case, see if the Canucks can put the sting of the 7-6 shootout loss behind them. And, again, they don't have much in the way of lineup options. We'll see, I think, a goaltending change. Victor Mancini could come in after giving up, the Canucks giving up 6 here. And then Max Sasson is up for the time being, but on an emergency basis. So we'll see if they send him back to the farm or if they keep him there for the final game of this 6-game road trip. Canucks are 2-1-2 on this trip. And as we said, 81 points leaves them 4 back of the idle St. Louis Blues. So the Canucks have 81 points, 9 games to go at Winnipeg, and then they come home. They've got Seattle, Anaheim, and Vegas on a 3-game homestand. Then they're out on the road, Dallas and Colorado. Those will be their final road games of the season. And then they finish the schedule with 3 at home against Minnesota, against San Jose, and against the Golden Knights on the final night. So 2 home games left against them. Vegas hasn't played in Vancouver yet this year, so we'll see. The Canucks have struggled in 2 games at T-Mobile, and again, daylight is fading on the Vancouver Canucks with 9 to go. So 8-1, 7-1-1, maybe 7-2, but I don't think they've got 2 losses to give at this point.
No, absolutely not.
Or
6 and whatever.
Certainly don't have 3 losses. They might have 2, but even that feels like a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
So, as Irf just said a moment ago, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Rate and review. We love to hear from you, and certainly all feedback is appreciated. And if there are things that you want to see us do with the program or things you'd like to see incorporated, try to get as much as your feedback in. We love the super chats as well, so thank you for all of the support there. But hit that subscribe button and leave us a nice review. And, of course, all the socials there. If you're watching on the live stream, you can see them on the screen and pick one or pick them all. And follow us on social media as well. All right, that's going to do it. Covered a lot of ground. And there was a lot of material to work with tonight. Unfortunately for the Vancouver Canucks, they leave another point on the table. They fall 7-6 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. And now it's off to Winnipeg to wrap up the road trip on Sunday. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. We will catch up with you next Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
The home game. All right, PJ will be in here. Jacob helping out behind the scenes. Tyson hopefully observed.
Tyson's hanging out.
Yeah, just what a night to be in here to watch a wild night of hockey. 7-6 is your final. Vancouver Canucks on the short end of a shootout at Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio. That is going to do it for this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.